Hey everybody, welcome back to the Branson Show. My name is Dane Braden.
I'm Ginger Michaud with Parade of Homes Real Estate Magazine.
And we are joined today by Alderman Larry Milton, Ward 2, City of Branson, correct?
Yep.
I contacted Larry yesterday afternoon, so this was very short notice. This was before the City Council meeting took place last night. And he agreed to come meet with us on his own time and answer questions and address you, us, we, the people. Thank you very much for being here, Larry. We really do appreciate it. I know we've got a lot of people that are concerned, scared, they have questions, they're confused, and it is our goal to broadcast the truth, to give clarity and answers in such a way that our community can understand, they can support their local leadership, and they can do what's best for themselves and their families. And even if they don't agree with decisions that their leadership has made, you can also tell them how to address that.
Sure.
You know, I think one of the first and best things would be to contact your alderman directly.
That's correct.
So let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
Last night was a big meeting. Let's talk about the decisions that were made. What were the main bullet points on the agenda, and what decisions did the City Council make moving forward?
Okay. Well, first off, Dane, let me thank you for inviting me here to share. At last night's Board of Alderman meeting, the two major points that were made was the 25% rule and the limit of 10. I think some confusion in the community is some are thinking it's an either or. And reality is it's both combined. And so let me explain. The 25% rule is for any business in Branson based on your occupancy load, which is determined by the fire department. So if your occupancy load in your property, in your building, let's say it's 100. The 25% rule says you cannot have more than 25%, or in this example, 25 people inside that facility, which does include employees. In addition to that rule, those 25 people inside that building, there cannot be 10 or more gathered together. So if there's 100, let's say the space will hold 400 people, so the 25% rule would say, okay, you're limited to 100 people inside your building, including employees. You're also restricted of not having 10 or more in any one area, social distancing. So an example might be, could you have a group of 10, 6 feet apart, another group of 10, 6 feet apart, another group of 10? That answer is yes, because that's practicing social distancing with groups of no more than 10 in a group.
Okay.
So those were two separate points, but if you put them together, that's how they were intended, was to be implemented together.
So it'll work in conjunction with each other.
Correct.
So well, Branson's got a lot of hotels and resorts. So let's say, like you said, so they could fit 400 people with a 25% occupancy. They could go ahead and bring in 100 reservations minus their staff. But then like the common areas, like the breakfast area, you'd only have like 10 people 6 feet apart.
Actually, Dane, thanks for bringing that up. There was a lot of confusion over lodging properties, and my phone rang off the hook this morning. So I reached out to our city attorney, Chris Lebeck, and asked him and had this conversation with him personally. The rules for all lodging property, you can have 100% occupancy in all of your rooms. If your hotel has 100 hotel rooms, you can have 100 rooms rented. It is not limited to 25. The 10, the rule of 10 is in any public common space, whether it be a breakfast room, the lobby, the pool area, any common space, there cannot be gatherings of 10 or more. So the rooms, you could fill up the hotel. And think about all these questions that we're trying to define. The spirit is social distancing, right? That's what that's what this whole thing is trying to accomplish.
That's really a good way to put it, is to get down to the bottom line. What is the goal? So if it's a gray area, if something is in question, remember the goal. The goal is social distancing. So let's err on the side of caution.
Sure.
Right, so like whether you're in 100% agreement or not, these ordinances are set to provide parameters of safety for businesses, for the public. But on your own, practice social distancing, and if you believe you would like it to be stronger or less groups, you can implement that yourself. So you at least meet the guideline. If you want to surpass and go over, that's your discretion. But each person, this is just set as at least a starting point for everyone to understand how to behave and run their businesses.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that is so true. Each individual needs to control this themselves. We don't need to be told by a government or by anybody what we need to be safe. Last night we approved a bill to give some guidance and direction for our community. But the bottom line is, everybody needs to take responsibility and take care of their own. Take care of their family, their friends. If they're standing in a group and they notice it gets too big, somebody needs to take leadership and say, our group's a little bit too big, why don't we divide into a couple groups? So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you for clarifying so much for us.
I know when we made the decision last night at the board, we took that very seriously. We received guidance from many experts. We received guidance from the medical community. And we know that no matter what decision was made last night, we're not going to make everybody happy. So we made a decision last night that we feel is solid, based on the medical recommendations. Some people think we went way too far. Some people think we didn't go far enough, and I get that. We all have different opinions. But I will say there was a few that were criticizing the board for not listening enough to the medical community, and I need to take exception to that. Last night we had, I believe it was a CEO and CFO Cox on our board. Dr. Brian Klontz is a doctor. He is works at Cox, and he made this recommendation. He voted yes for this. So the rest of the board didn't vote on this blindly. Some have accused us of, why aren't you listening to the medical community? And I'm going to sit here and tell you, from my opinion, I think we did listen to the medical community.
One of the questions that I know we're getting a lot is, with Cox having so few ventilators on hand, I know that's one of the concerns, is if it were to spread, what are we going to do?
Boy, that is a great question. Unfortunately, the answer is sad. Let's say Cox Hospital has 15 ventilators. Think about this. What do you tell patient number 16? Think about that. That's where personal responsibility comes in.
It's an excellent point. I said it this morning in our talk with former mayor of Branson, Karen Best. I'll say it again. Whether you are or are not happy with the ruling that was made last night, you at the end of the day are responsible for yourself, you're responsible for your family, and you're responsible for your business. If you think more stringent restrictions need to be put in place, be the change you want to see. So if you think that it should be self-quarantine or shelter in place, whatever you want to call it. Do that. Start with yourself. Because what I've noticed through these online platforms like the Branson Show or Branson Buzz, or there's even a new one that's all about COVID-19 and Branson, I see that a lot of people have ideas. A lot of people want change. A lot of people will talk. Very few people will do anything about it. So if you want something done, if you want it done on a higher level, contact your representatives.
Exactly right.
But you also need to be the change that you want to see in the world. Start by leading by example. Now, I am not a member of City Council, but I would venture to say that last night's meeting was probably the first of more to come as this progresses. Is that a fair?
Well, my personal opinion is we used to talk about this COVID-19 was changing weekly. Then we started talking about this COVID-19 is changing daily. I'm saying that this COVID-19 is changing hourly. Before we came on the air here, Governor Parsons just announced enforcing social distancing nationwide. Statewide, I'm sorry. And he says we'll hear more from him tomorrow. But the direction the governor just gave the state of Missouri is what we did last night of creating mandates for social distancing. I think there's a very good chance more is coming down the pike. Yesterday, the state of California, they did a shelter in place for 40 million people. Just today, Governor Cuomo out of New York did a shelter in place. So as this virus develops over the days, I think I can assure you, your Board of Aldermen are ready to take action at a moment's notice. We have other bills that are prepared to go, and you won't be waiting for us to take action if it's needed.
Well, to follow up on what you said, I just want to reiterate, when you're taking this time for all of us to adjust, just like you have to be able, as our leaders, to adjust and move and change on the fly. As civilians, the public, the personal responsibility extends into no matter what, you got to follow what the government's doing, but what I'm trying to curb here is panic. Take the time to do your own research. Reach out to the people in your community that have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Ask us if there's an answer you need you're not getting, and we can have that discussion online. All of us together can curb the panic and just take some personal responsibility, listen for what's going on, and we will be able to straighten out that curve much faster and come out on the end of it.
And honestly, I don't think there's any reason for panic. I know we've been thrust into this crisis. And so we can't do anything about what's been put upon us, but what we can do is take responsibility for ourselves and our own actions. So as much as possible, I would like to encourage all citizens of Branson to take this opportunity and put some positive into it. For example, spending quality time with our families. We tend to get so busy, running so hard, so fast, that we start losing sight of quality of life with our loved ones. This is a great time to rekindle that and not only spend time inside with the families. It's healthy to spend time outside with the family. Go play catch or frisbee or fly a kite. Go fishing, go camping, hiking. There's all kinds of outdoor activities we can do as families that will strengthen that bond within our family that, quite honestly, I think because of the rat race that most of us are into, we start to lose sight of that. So this is a time to, let's catch up and not just see the lemons, but let's look at some of the positives that we can get out of this.
Yeah, I mean, every dark cloud has a silver lining. Every painful experience is there to teach us something. It's meant to grow us. I think that the family unit in this country has been declining for a very long time now. So I'm in agreement with you on that. If we're going to be locked inside with each other anyway, let's make the best of it. Let's start looking for positives and looking for ways that we can help our community. We've talked quite a bit about how you need to take care of yourself, you need to take care of your family. I do want to add to that, looking out for yourself and looking out for your family is good. It is your responsibility, but not at the expense of your neighbors and your fellow community members. So when you go to Walmart and buy 16 packages of toilet paper, do you really need that much? Think about the other people in your community. And it's not just toilet paper, it's any necessities, food, supplies, whatever it may be. As Karen Best said this morning, check on your neighbors. You don't necessarily have to knock the door. You can text them, you can call them, you can get on social media. Use caution. Use your head, stay safe. But let's band together as a community at a safe distance, and let's beat this together.
That's right.
And we have the technology to do it. That's a blessing.
Yes. Yeah, thanks to Marshall Howden, anybody who wanted to could tune in to last night's meeting and hear what was going on in real time.
Thank you, Marshall Howden, for doing that. I heard from many today that said the audio went down at the city meeting, yet they were still able to experience it because of your FaceTime. So thank you very much.
So, and that right there is an example of a member in our community who saw a need, stepped up, and filled it. And that's what times like these are about. That's what it requires. We need more people to step up and fill the void, fill the gap, fill a need wherever they can. Alderman Milton is an elected official. We, the people, put him and the other aldermen and the mayor in office. And we look to them for leadership and we look to them for guidance. But it doesn't mean you can't think for yourself. We've got to take responsibility in our personal lives. We've got to take responsibility for our families. We've got to take responsibility for our businesses. And you've got to do what you think is best for yourself, for your family, but for your community. And, we do expect leadership and guidance from you. We expect you guys to do what is best for our community. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair to expect elected officials to dictate and mandate every move you make from here on out in the foreseeable future.
That's right.
Right.
My personal belief system is I really don't like mandates. I don't like big government. I don't like overreaching. It just goes against my grain. I think in this example, what we as city leaders were asked to do was to give our community some direction. And I believe that's what we did last night. I know it was in the form of a mandate, but obviously the medical community felt that was important and we agreed with them.
Well, and you took in opinions from the community.
Absolutely.
And weighed them in your decision. And that's how government's supposed to work. I do know that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do know that as far as government telling you everything to do, there's kind of two sides. So what I hear, at least in my conversations, whether professional or personal, are the two sides of that coin. So some people just want government daddy to tell them what to do, and then some people go full tinfoil hat that the government's going to knock down your door tomorrow and take your kids and your guns or whatever. This is the kind of discussions that I think the way they lose the fear mongering, the way to lose the edge is to discuss and talk about them and talk to you. your community leaders, talk to people who can actually answer questions. You guys are all available.
Yes, we are.
Right. And then, there's credible websites as far as COVID-19. World Health Organization and CDC puts out regular reports. I just think it's great that we're having this discussion in such a open forum as pertaining to our specific situation in the world today, our area, our neighbors, our leaders.
And thanks for saying that, because I believe some great resources, if you have any other questions or input, cityofbranson.org will have links on it to some good sites. The Chamber of Commerce has information on their sites. Taney County Health is an excellent resource. They'll provide you all the links to CDC and all that. So there's a lot of information out there. I know I heard that last night our decisions caused a lot of confusion in the community. So Dane, I really appreciate you letting me come and try to help clarify some of that.
Well, we're noticing that the mainstream media is not helping issues at this time. And we see a lot of fear and a lot of confusion and a lot of conjecture and speculation and rumors. So that's not going to help the issue either. The best way to get a straight answer is to go directly to the source. I couldn't think of a better way to do that than to go directly to one of our aldermen. You mentioned the Taney County Health Department. We are currently working on getting a representative from Taney County Health Department to come here and sit down with us and answer questions as well. We are by no means mainstream media. We're using what we have, starting where we are, and we're just doing what we can. But we feel it's important to keep the community calm and informed with honest and accurate information. I do want to ask a clarification question, because the decision that was passed last night was in fact a mandate.
That's correct.
So that means that there are criminal penalties that go along with a violation of said mandate?
That's correct.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the violations are up to a $500 fine or 90 days in jail. Some will say that's, and I've already heard, some will say that's way too extreme, some will say it should be stronger. I believe when our city attorney, when we drafted this bill, they wanted to have enough teeth into it to make it more enforceable and let the community know just how serious we are.
Well, and, I can see that. If you want rules to be followed, you've got to have some sort of consequences that go along with them. I'm not a huge fan of mandates either, but I can see both sides of that one.
I can too.
I can.
Well, this event is unprecedented in our country, as far as we've always had certain ordinances and government. I don't know what I'm saying. We've gone in and helped after hurricanes and after especially
natural disasters,
9/11 and stuff, but it's always been regionalized to that specific area. So coast to coast, everyone's figuring this out, and we're on this journey together ultimately. And it is going to constantly change, and I appreciate that local government is having these discussions and will continue to have them as we get through this together.
My personal opinion is we as local government are making decisions. I think it would be so much more effective if our state government and all state governments would come out with a message that we could all do uniformly.
I like that. I like that a lot.
What can citizens do? What can we do to help the situation from your standpoint?
Right now, there's no need to panic, because we're limiting the number of people that can go into grocery stores, but the grocery stores are still being stocked and supplied. A lot of the restaurants are closing out of choice. But the primary things is listen to what the CDC says The basics, wash your hands, the social distancing is so important, as the doctors told us at last night's meeting. If somebody's ill and they cough or sneeze, that's why they want the 6-foot separation, which makes sense. And I think just taking care of yourself and your immediate loved ones, if we all practice that, quite honestly, we wouldn't need a mandate.
Very true. And just for you viewers, we are doing the best that we can to abide by not only what went into effect last night, but just the guidance that we're receiving from the CDC, World Health Organization, our presidential administration. So, for example, we came in early this morning. We sanitized every single surface in this studio. We cleaned, we purified the air. We've all had hand sanitizer. As much as I'd love to hug, shake your hand, whatever, I can't do that. But that's just what it takes. And these are small sacrifices to pay for a bright future not so far down the road. If we don't use caution, if we don't take this seriously, it's going to be a lot harder to get ahead of it. It's going to be a lot harder to flatten the curve, so to speak. So, we all, at this point in time, we all have a responsibility. That being said, I'd like to give you the floor for any additional comments, and then if we can, let's open it up for live Q&A.
I say we open it up.
Okay.
There is one person who wanted us to give everybody the link to the Taney County Health Department.
Can do.
Yep, so that's taneycohealth.org if you want to check that out.
That is Taney, C-O, health.org.
We could drop it in the comments too.
Yes.
Yes, and actually Michael London was the one that asked us to do that.
Hey, Michael, I talked to you on the phone earlier.
Yeah, and thankfully he actually did post that in the chat, so I will go ahead and repost that again so it's fresh for everybody. Let's see. Somebody else, Chris Meyer, was referring to a city council meeting and the mandate for 10 people, the group gathering.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, Mike Parsons said that is excluded for government meetings or something. Is that right? I don't...
I believe that's what he said.
Okay.
Right. And medical facilities.
Staff.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know the city of Branson will support that, because part of our ordinance of not having more than 10 people, if we're going to enforce an ordinance, I think we have to live by it.
Yeah.
And again, the governor, I believe, was giving us a heads up. They haven't clarified directives yet or gone into detail, just, hey, this is coming.
Right.
But
Yeah.
tomorrow will be another announcement. And that's what I mean about continuous changes, continuous announcements. You would like continuous feedback from us as much as we would like it from you, so that we can all work together to manage these changes that are,
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, everybody has said it so far. You've said it, Karen Best said it. This thing is changing by the hour, sometimes by the minute. In order to stay ahead of this, we need to work together, and we need to have honest, open
Discussion.
lines of communication. There needs to be discussion, not hate, not argumentative. You're allowed to disagree. We all have our own opinions, but let's try and get something constructive done rather than screaming and pointing fingers and accusation. There's got to be more of this open communication, which is why I appreciate you coming and being here.
And we
I
appreciate you taking open questions.
Yeah, and on that note, please, whoever's watching, hit us with your questions. We're here for you. We're trying to help you, keep you informed, and let you know what's going on.
We have
I
anything?
would like to make one more point.
Yeah.
And this is not speaking as an alderman, but as a citizen. What I'm gonna encourage everybody to do is, obviously, there's so much financial pain along with the COVID-19. I'm gonna encourage you to call your mortgage lender, call your car loan, and ask the question, because of this crisis, what are you willing to do? My wife and I called a couple of our creditors and didn't say much. Basically said, here's the situation we're in. We have some bills that are coming to us. Is there anything we can do? And without exception, they said they're aware of COVID-19. They are suspending any payments that are due. There's going to be nothing on the credit report, no late fees. They understand. I would encourage you to ask your mortgage companies, because everybody is taking a hit financially from losing our work. It won't be as painful if we can suspend a mortgage payment for, say, 3 months or so, or if you could have your car payment suspended. Some of your larger expenses, if you could get those suspended for 3 months, the loss of income won't hurt as much. So I'm encouraging, don't just bury your head in the sand, and don't be fearful of contacting them. I think those that reach out to the lenders, to the creditors, and ask the question, you may be surprised the answers you get. That is not financial advice. That's just a citizen.
We do have a question from Chris Meyer, asking for a clarification on city council stuff, saying if people can't attend a city council meeting, what will they do to get public input at meetings?
We have canceled all of our, the rest of March and all of April meetings. City council meetings have been canceled. The next scheduled council meeting is the second Tuesday of May, which I believe, I'm not sure what the date is, second Tuesday of May. So in the meantime, if you go to the bransonmo.gov website, you'll find every alderman's email address, every alderman's phone number. Feel free to reach out to the mayor. Feel free to reach out to the city administrator, Ted Martin at the fire department. He's in charge of emergency management system. So just because we won't be meeting together, we can still visit, even collectively, conference calls on the telephone. So just because we're not having regular meetings doesn't mean we're all not still working. So please contact us.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask a clarification on that, because I know inevitably we're going to get this question. If the next meeting isn't until the second Tuesday of May, and this thing is changing by the hour, surely our aldermen are not going to wait till the second Tuesday of May to do something. So I'm assuming you will be meeting on an as-needed basis.
Absolutely.
In direct response to what this virus does. Is that?
We are very, very active. We're just limiting and if you think about the public meeting, there again, we're trying to practice that social distancing, right? It's irresponsible to say we're going to have a city meeting, invite people into the audience, which violates what we're trying to do. So just because we're not at the meeting doesn't mean we're not working every single day.
Excellent.
Do we have any other questions at the moment?
No, but we can make a little announcement if you do. Oh, here we go. We do have another one from Jim Barber. What date?
Hi, Jim.
What date is the new ordinance scheduled to expire?
Great question. Everything that's been approved, we've put a date in there of May 18th. So obviously the questions, Jim, were, well, when we're making these things, how long is it going to last? I don't think May 18th is a magic date. I believe it coincides with the recommendations we've received from the CDC and Taney County Health, saying we're really looking at about an 8-week period of time. It doesn't mean this is going to end in 8 weeks. It may end sooner, but 8 weeks is a benchmark date for us to step back and say, okay, what's the world look like today? Do we want to extend it? Do we want to make modifications to it? So that's just a date for us to review what we've put in place today.
Very good.
It could change tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the truth. which is why we will be doing our best to continue these broadcasts in as real time as possible, so that you have the latest, most up-to-date and accurate information. Inevitably, a lot of the things we've discussed today will change in the near future, I'm sure. That is not meant to cause alarm or panic or fear. It's going to be okay. I said it last night. Everything turns out okay in the end. If everything is not okay, it's not the end. So hang in there, people.
I was on the call this morning with the Chamber of Commerce. They had a conference call. Thanks, Jeff, for putting that on. It was extremely informative. But one of the points that Jeff made, and I completely agree with it, is the city of Branson, our chamber, is discontinuing any marketing spend effective today, which means twofold. We don't want to spend money to attract people to Branson at this time. It'll also allow us to fill up our guns, so when this thing does pass, and it will pass, when it passes, we're going to be just loaded, and we're going to be able to go out and scream to the world and invite everybody back to Branson.
So when this blows over, and it will, when we beat this, we'll have an even larger marketing budget to let people know Branson is open for business once again. Did we have another question?
We did. It's from Clay Miller asking, when will they start enforcing mandate in regards to retail grocery stores, pharmacies, etc.?
Well, the mandate right now includes grocery stores. Child care and medical and pharmacies are excluded. Those are obviously essentials. But even for grocery stores, if you take a Walmart or any grocery store and you look at the building size and what is deemed as the occupancy load for that building. Let's say Walmart is, the occupancy load is 400. That means that Walmart is allowing in 100 customers at a time, less the number of employees, and it's going to be regulated for the purpose of social distancing. So as people come out of the store, they're going to allow more into the store. Again, the purpose is social distancing. And let's say that 100 people are inside the store. That also includes no gatherings of 10 or more inside the store. That's how those two go hand in hand. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned pharmacies, and yes, I saw we've got another question. We'll get to that in just a second. On the topic of pharmacies, and keep in mind, folks, this is subject to change as well, but with us practicing social distancing and some of us self-quarantining, shutting our doors, staying in, CVS Pharmacy has been delivering prescriptions. Take advantage of that while you can. That may not last. It probably will change as this progresses, but right now, especially for those with mobility limitations, look into things like that. Just little resources, but every little bit helps. So at least as of yesterday, I believe it was, I know that CVS was still delivering prescriptions, so look into that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, another question.
This was also from Clay Miller. Let's see. It was saying he was in Walmart this morning. No one was regulating anything. When will it go into effect officially? I think we just kind of covered that. Does that, from Mike Parson, he was saying that's today. Is that correct?
It actually officially went into effect when the mayor signed the document, the bill, and he would have signed that last night.
So,
it might be taking some time for this word to get out to everybody.
right.
And, like what we're doing now, clarify
Yeah.
for folks.
And there needs to be clarification because we saw a lot of confusion, a lot of questions. I'm actually surprised we're not getting more questions now with as many questions that were going around last night.
We do have some more.
Oh, we got more. Okay, let's do it.
This is from Chris Canote.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
If an attraction has 1,000 capacity, does that mean 250 people can be in the same building? Let's say a water park.
That would be correct. If the occupancy load is 1,000, 250, 25% would be allowed to be in that facility at the same time, less employees, and there again, no social gathering of 10 or more at any within the facility.
So maybe if I expand on that a little bit, one down the slide at a time, and probably not very many people in the wave pool or the lazy river, because that's where people tend to congregate. So you probably go solo on the water slide, but you're not going to be gathering in groups in the pools and things like that.
Another important point is the exception to this 25% rule is if it's a scheduled event, then the scheduled event has the capacity of the 10 or more, which includes employees. And I know that came up last night. I know there was a lot of confusion to it. Clay Cooper, bless your heart. I know your heart and soul is in this. It may not seem equitable that some can be open and some can't, but the way the mandate reads is if it's a scheduled event, a scheduled concert, a scheduled show, that limits the occupancy to 10 or less, including the employees.
Okay, that's helpful. That's good clarification.
Yeah, that is good clarification.
Do you have a question from Michael London?
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Michael.
What is the advantage of the plan that was approved last night versus a complete shutdown?
Great question.
It is a great question, Michael. As the board received its information and the expert guidance that we are relying on, at this stage, I'm going to say some would probably prefer to see a complete shutdown, but the majority of the medical professionals that advised the board, they felt like this mandate that we put in place last night they agreed to that mandate. There again, we're weighing all the information, we're weighing the pros and cons. I know there's so much financial pain out there, but we can't, one of the doctors at last night's meeting basically said, we're comparing financial pain to death, and that's pretty much the bottom line. So as painful as the financial side is, the doctors are telling us the consequences are worse. So we did take action last night. We took action based on the information we had. I think we all openly admitted that as this progresses, we're clearly ready to take further action, whether it's this isn't going as bad as we thought, so let's loosen it, or this is working, let's stay with it, or maybe we need to impose more. So each day we'll decide.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And forgive me if this has already been answered. But regarding city utilities, is there an ordinance or directive for that to keep water on or?
Yeah, I don't have any exact information. What I can tell you that I've read, it did say that the utility companies cannot turn off utilities for lack of payment.
Excellent.
I don't know if they're going to, once this crisis is over, if they're gonna say, okay, you owe us this money that we've waived for these months or weeks. They may say, here's a payment plan. At the end of the day, I'm not sure how they're gonna recapture that money.
Mm-hmm.
But to get everybody through the crisis, I believe there's more than just utilities, but utilities is one that have just acknowledged.
Yeah. Excellent.
No harm, no foul.
We had a question come in from Olivia Ramon.
Hi, Olivia.
Hey, Olivia.
Hi.
She was asking if there would be any changes to Table Rock Lake and just how we convene in the outdoors in the summertime together.
It goes back to the rule of 10,
Okay.
right? if you think of this being socially responsible and the social distancing, just try to limit the groups to smaller groups and spread out a little bit more. The spirit is we don't want to pass the virus back and forth.
Right.
So essentially, you could go out on the lake, on the boat, but make sure that you have no more than 10 people in that boat.
That's right.
That, well, this isn't part of the ordinance. I was just thinking personal responsibility. No more, depending on the size of your boat, no more than 10 people that you can reasonably be still spaced out.
Yeah.
Right.
And spaced out and Coast Guard approved, or the Border Patrol
Yeah,
approved.
there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Do you have a question from Tara Qualls?
Hello, Tara.
Hi, Tara.
Hi, Tara.
She's asking, what about extended stay hotels? The percentage that they need to be at. Also, should we be taking in others for long-term living? So, extended stay hotels, like ones that you'd be living at.
Well, let's address that one. And actually, that's
Well,
I'll
the
leave it to
ordinance
you.
applies, it would be the same for extended hotels as it is for hotels, right? It's not limited by the unit itself, but any common area, any public area, that's where the social distancing is critical, and we want to keep the groups of 10 or less.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, with an extended stay hotel, they could have every individual unit occupied.
That's correct.
But if they have any common area whatsoever, it has to be 10 people or less.
That's correct.
Okay.
And not just, and when you say common area, that could be interior common area, it could
Right.
be outside common area.
Right. You could be playing shuffleboard or horseshoes, or you could be inside in the breakfast area. But wherever that common area is, 10 people or less.
That's correct.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. It made me think of, and I don't know if this is a silly question. We are live, so that's going to happen sometimes. With me, especially. But like vacation rentals, I'm just thinking, sometimes they have rooms that are just full of bunk beds. The 10 or less is still applies.
10 or less applies.
Very good. Next question?
Not at the moment.
Excellent.
Well, we would like to hear feedback on what else you want answered, maybe other areas you want us to find someone to come in and interview. We could,
Yep.
If you're open as changes come in, Larry, to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
Be happy
love to call on you again.
Well, we
As
appreciate
things
that.
change and progress, it's important to keep the members of our community up to speed, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I appreciate you being willing to come here, do this on short notice, but, you know, it takes people stepping up, and so I appreciate you being
I'll be
here.
honest, I don't see a lot of resistance. I got a call from my boss before we started this meeting on measures he's taking throughout his companies. I've gotten many emails from local businesses
Mhm.
saying what they're doing to be responsible. Are you feeling a lot of resistance? I'm seeing a lot of community.
It's exactly what you
compliance.
just said. It is so proud to live in this community where prior to mandates, we all know we don't need the government to tell us to do what's right. And countless businesses, restaurants, theaters, they are closing, they're being socially responsible, they're purposely choosing to limit the social distancing. I think the community, in fact, in many ways, I think what the community has done, they could be directing to us because they're already doing it.
Wonderful.
That's
I
a
know it's
very good
great
observation,
community. Yeah, our business community is pretty smart.
and it's encouraging.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
By the way, we do have a camera crew here as well, but just so you know, we are sticking to the under 10 people. So,
Total of 5.
We have a total of 5.
yeah,
We're
we
way
have
under.
half that right now, and we're fairly well distanced. So, it may not be exactly 6 feet, but we also had to fit everybody in the frame.
Well, Chief Matthews may be outside, waiting for us to walk outside.
Speaking
kidding,
of
Chief.
which,
Well, and we do have a
Isn't it, Darren?
sanitation station
we do.
Yes, we do.
between two double doors as you walk in and as you go out.
And like you said, you have sterilized this room.
As much as humanly
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And honestly, we are open in the future to Skyping interviews if need be. We
Yes.
want everyone comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets worse before it gets better, and I do think there's a fair chance of that. As you mentioned, we have the technology. We can think outside the box. We can do things differently and keep the information coming. Just because you're stuck inside doesn't mean you're totally isolated. You still have access to the outside world through your phones and your computers, which is good. It's very good. Yeah, I would love to call on you as things
You bet.
progress. I may be talking to you afterwards to try and reach out to some more prominent people in this community.
I'd be anything I can do to help.
I appreciate that very
I
much.
hope we see the Branson skies filled with kites
Yes, and frisbees.
and frisbees.
Well, Larry, thank you again for
You bet.
joining us. Thank all of you for tuning in, for watching, and thank you to every single person that posed a question.
Yeah, thank you for
We
that.
appreciate that. We need that. We're going to keep the communication and the information coming. And stay tuned. We'll keep you updated as best we can.